Hey guys, I'm back with another writing lesson for poetry. We're at the end of our poetry unit, so I want to talk about editing and revising some your poems, and I want to talk about a few other things that we didn't get to talk about. Everything will be attached in the lesson that I'm going to show you. Remember that your poetry tools are attached under writing tools on the classroom page, the classwork page. This paper called Poetry Terms. And then I have poetry tools attached there. All the things that we talked about. I'm going to attach a poetry checklist. We don't really grade poetry because it's your own way that you want to write the poems. There's no right or wrong. So I just have, did you zoom in like, a small moment on the little details? Did you show and not tell? Did you use poetic language? Not boring words, but those strong action words and describing words. Did you use the poetry tools? Did you make sure that all the words were there? Did you spell the words correctly? You still have to spell correctly in poems. Remember, punctuation is up to you. And it just gives you a little checklist to follow. What I want to talk today about is editing and revising. So up here in the yellow, I have a poem I wrote called Fall. The colorful leaves fall from the trees, red, yellow, orange, brown. The air chills my bones. I hear the sound of the leaves under my feet. I gather the leaves in a big pile so I can jump right in. Now, editing means fixing up the spelling and punctuation. Remember, punctuation is up to you. So if you see down below here, I highlighted that I just wanted a exclamation point here. That's all I changed with the punctuation. But the spelling does need to be fixed. So I see this R controlled vowel word. Color is OR. Leaves, the vowel team is EA. Remember, we try it both ways and see which looks right. I fixed it down here. Brown, the owl. Remember, owl can be OU or OW. The magic E word, I left it off of bones. And I left it off of pile. And then also homophone words. I have the wrong here. Here with your ear is HEAR. I have the wrong right. RIGHT. I left out the vowel. Remember, we talked about sometimes we don't sound through the whole word. I have the wrong feet. It should be FEE. And then like at the end of a word, gather. So I fixed all of that down here, okay? That's editing. Revising is different. Revising is, do you want to move any words around? Do you want to add more describing words or strong action words? Do you have that poetic language? Do you have those poetry tools? Okay? So look what I added here. I wrote, I see, and then I wanted a line break. The colorful leaves drop instead of fall. Drop from the trees. And then I wanted red and yellow. I wanted to make a line break. Orange and brown to make that music or rhythm in the poem. Red and yellow, orange and brown. I added like a rainbow. And then I added I feel the brisk autumn air. I added describing words. It chills my bones. I hear the sound of the leaves under my feet. And I added some sound words. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I gather the leaves in a giant pile instead of big pile. And I added a ... I can jump right in. Okay? So that's the difference between editing and revising. I have a checklist that you can look at the end about editing and revising. Editing, are all words spelled correctly? Are all the other words spelled correctly, like magic E and R-controlled vowel words, vowel teams and homophones? Do I want any punctuation? Revising, do I want to add some poetry tools, like line breaks, or we even talked about alliteration, words starting with the same sound. Do I hear the music? Did I zoom in and tell those tiny details? Did I show and not tell? Did I use the poetic language? Do I want to change the voice of my poem, and do I want to group the lines into stanzas? I'm going to show you that in a minute, next, okay? I'm going to show you what that means, the voice and the stanzas, okay? I just want to show you how I did add alliteration here. When I added brisk, the brisk autumn air, it chills my bones. Brisk and bones start with the same sound. Okay, so I tried to add a little bit of alliteration in the poem. And I don't know if there was another place or not. But I want to talk about the voice of the poem now. You can write your poem in different voices, and if you write it one way and you don't like that, you can revise it and write it another way. So this same poem, Fall Fun, I wrote in different voices. So a lot of the poems are written where you're just talking to yourself. I see the colorful leaves drop from the trees, red and yellow, orange and brown like a rainbow. I feel the brisk autumn air. It chills my bones. I hear the sound of the leaves under my feet. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I gather the leaves in a giant pile so I can jump right in. So you're saying I. You don't always have to say I when it sounds like you're talking to yourself. But if you're talking to somebody else, you'll notice if you're talking to somebody else in the poem, like how I changed it here. Fall Fun. You see the colorful leaves drop from the trees, red and yellow, orange and brown like a rainbow. You feel the brisk autumn air. It chills your bones. You hear the sound of the leaves under your feet. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You gather the leaves in a giant pile so you can jump right in. You see how I changed I to you? So when you say you, it's like you're talking to somebody else. And then there's even another way that you can use voice in your poems. You can talk to what the thing, the object that you're writing about. So this would be like I'm talking to fall or to nature. I see your colorful leaves drop from your trees, red and yellow, orange and brown like a rainbow. I feel your brisk autumn air. It chills my bones. I hear the sound of your leaves under my feet. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I gather your leaves in a giant pile so I can jump right in. It's like you're talking to fall or you're talking to Mother Nature. And I'm going to show you a couple of others. I had this poem called Dear Apples. It says, high on the ladder, I try to pick you. You are plump in the tree, your leaves tickle my face. When I have that first bite, your tart and sweet juice journeys into my belly and tingles there. You make me heavenly happy. My cheeks shine as red as you. So the author is talking to the apples, okay? This other one that I attached below, Dear World, you can read, is talking to the world. The author is talking to the world. Here is one called Apple. And it says, at the center, a dark star wrapped in white. When you bite, listen for the crunch of boots on snow, snow that is ripened. Over it stretches the red starry sky. So this author, Nan Fry, is talking to someone, telling about the apple. Here's one about icicles. Have you tasted icicles fresh from the edge of the roof? Have you let the sharp ice melt in your mouth like cold swords? Talking to somebody. Here's pumpkin picking. Let's go pumpkin picking in the patch. Now we're jiggling the old gate latch. Gate swings wide and we step inside. Pumpkin spread like an ocean tide. There's a simile. You take one like a fat balloon. I'll take one like an orange moon. Hike to the house in 50 paces, then we'll carve out the pumpkin faces. So the author, Sandra Liatzos, is talking to someone. The one about skyscrapers is asking questions. The author could be talking to themselves or they could be talking to somebody else. I've attached them below. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the stanzas. Stanzas are a group of lines in a poem. This is a stanza in this poem, Dear World. It's a group of, this has 5 lines, and then there's a space. And then there's another stanza with 5 lines. and then there's a space, and then there's another stanza with 5 lines, and then there's a space, and then there's 4 lines, and a space, and then there's a line by itself. All stanzas don't have to have the same number of lines, and there might be a reason why you group them together. Maybe you're talking about your senses, and all the things that you see are in one stanza. All the things you hear are in another stanza. In this poem, Dear World, it says, please tell me why and how you grow delicious berries and fruit in the trees. And then the next stanza says, please tell me why and how you give sweet smells to the flowers. And then the next stanza says, please tell me why and how you change. So each stanza is asking the world why they do something. Okay, so there might be different reasons why you create stanzas in your poem. The Dear Apples poem had them too, and there were different amounts of lines in each stanza. Okay, you don't have to make stanzas for your poem, but you can. For example, if you were writing a poem about the seasons, maybe one stanza would be about fall, one would be about spring, one would be about summer. And those are just some examples. So you can think about that when you're revising your poems. Do I want to have stanzas in my poem? So I want you to fix up 2 poems. I also attached some poems that first graders wrote, and I showed you their rough draft and then their final poem and how they fixed it up. I've attached the papers that I went over here with you now, that I wrote, and I attached the poems about voice, so you can look at all of that, and then pick your 2 favorite poems or your 2 best poems, and fix them up the best you can. Edit them, revise them, use the checklist, use your poetry tools papers that I gave you, and think about all the things that you learned during this unit, and make them the best you can be. Make them the best they can be, excuse me. You can decorate with a border. You can add a picture and illustration at the bottom. Remember, I attached poetry paper under writing tools. And so you can use that paper, and some of the paper has a place for an illustration box. Okay, I look forward to seeing your poems, and I'll see you next time.